Let's start with Korea for um, any sort of presumptive conditions. And for the most part, and you and I talked about this before, for the most part, Korea, specifically the DMZ, is really kind of mirroring a lot of this stuff from the Vietnam era presumptive lists. And there is a list here on the VA's website, and there's a little blurb here that I want to read out as well, just to for the sake of just getting it from the horse's mouth, right? So, Korean DMZ and Agent Orange exposure veterans who served in a unit or near. I love that, because what's or near, right?
Yeah.
How near? How near are we talking? Because, anywhere in Korea is pretty near compared to something else, right? So
Mhm.
anyway, so served in a unit or near the Korean DMZ anytime between September 1, 1967 and August 31st, 1971 are presumed to have been exposed to herbicides. So this is during the Vietnam era, right? And they're saying that if you were in that area, then they're looking at the herbicide exposure. These veterans do not show these veterans do not have to show that they were exposed to Agent Orange to be eligible for disability compensation. So that goes back to the fact that it is presumptive. So the big things that kind of happened over the last 5 years or so is the whole idea that you had to be, that Agent Orange stopped at the borders, right? It's no, the wind blows, right? And so then that's where we were able to get some real big expansions. And another great one was the Blue Water Navy
Mhm.
addition, to the 12 nautical miles. You no longer had to have boots on ground, which is also awesome. What are your thoughts, Clay, on that? I'm going to pull up something else here while you go ahead and give us your thoughts.
Absolutely. So Agent Orange is I like to call it the clinch pin of the Korean and Vietnam era veterans when it comes to exposure. Now, there are 6 different time frames and locations for Agent Orange. I'll just go ahead and read those verbatim. But this is a pretty long list, and the conditions, which I'm not going to read verbatim, but there's about just looking at this, there's about 20, maybe 25 conditions that are presumptive based on Agent Orange. Period. And so if you meet this time and location criteria, and you have a condition that's linked to Agent Orange, simply submit the claim. Okay. So Republic of Vietnam or on a vessel of not more than 12 nautical miles, yada, yada, yada. We talked about that. Of Vietnam and Cambodia from January of 62 to May of 75. So 62 to 75. Then you have Royal U.S. or Royal Thai military base in Thailand, right, from January to June of 76. You have Laos from 65 to 69, and the list just goes on, right? Cambodia, tons of other provinces from 69 from April to basically the month of April of 1969. Guam or American Samoa. So Guam, you don't even have to be in a foreign country. Technically, Guam's a territory. I got it, right? January of 62 to July of 1980. And then Johnston Atoll or on a ship called Johnston from January of 72 to 1977. Now, I don't expect you to, jot that down real quick as I'm saying it. We're going to have these links down below. But pretty much the point I wanted to really drive is, listen, the list for Agent Orange is pretty big. And there's actually a piece of legislation, and I think you know more about this than I do, Jason, that would expand exposure to when Agent Orange was stored
Mm,
in the States or on a ship, right?
huge.
So it's I'm not gonna say it's going to, because it's not passed, but it's likely to expand. But as of right now, there are tons of expansions already for Agent Orange and about 20
Right.
25 conditions
Yeah.
stemming from Agent Orange. So if that's
So,
you, absolutely take the time to look into it. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of just give this little breakdown too for Korean vets, Korea War vets, and there's some of this stuff is like no brainer, right? And again, this is one of those situations where it's sadly there may be some of this. Wow, this would have been nice to know many years ago, right? So it says here, if you served during the Korean War anytime between June 25, 1950 and July 27th, 1953, you may be at risk of certain health conditions. And then it goes on, and this is kind of along the same lines that you talked about, Clay, with this is almost that hybrid version. It's not quite a presumptive, but the VA is really conceding to a lot of issues here. So you might just need to get the medical opinion and you're pretty much going to be good. So it says, you may be at risk of illness or injuries caused by, and they have 3 bullet points here: extreme cold, health problems like skin cancer and frostbite scars, or pain, tingling, or numbness in the fingers or toes caused by the effects of cold climates. You're at higher risk if you served in the chosen reservoir campaign conducted from October through December 1950 in extreme sub-zero temperatures. Okay, so they're basically saying that if you have any of these kind of extreme cold conditions and you served in Korea, you're probably going to get approved. And if you were chosen what reservoir, well, then it's probably like super extra, you're going to get approved, right? The next one is occupational job related hazards, right? Because it's the time and place, right? So chemicals, paints, radiation, and other hazards you may have come in contact with through your job in the military there, right? And then noise, obviously, it wasn't a quiet time. Harmful sounds, from guns, explosive rockets, heavy weapons, jets, and aircraft and machinery that can cause or contribute to hearing loss and tinnitus. So the VA is saying essentially, hey, look, if you have any of these things, you should probably file for a claim. The VA, do not do this for everybody. They don't have a special little spot that says, hey, look, here are some of the key things that you need to be aware of and you should probably file for. So I did want to point that out for our Korean vets, specifically the cold weather stuff is just horrific. I visited a Korean war vet that was, he was housebound, amputations, the whole 9 yards. I mean, from cold weather stuff, and it was a nightmare for that poor guy and his wife. And they weren't connected for anything, and we were racing the clock because he was going to go at any time and trying to get set up for any sort of benefits and DIC for after the fact, and it's rough. So for any Korean war vets out there, this is some important stuff, as well as surviving spouses need to also be aware.